Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's Haitianqueen Dia here, back with another video. In this video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of my trip on the Carnival Sunrise. While I'm here, I just want to thank you all for the support on my last couple of videos, and keep on watching if you want to know my opinion about my trip. So guys, let's talk about the cost. So big thing, cost, right? How much did it cost compared going to a regular resort? So if you have been a follower of my channel, you know that I typically do resort style travel versus cruising. So this is my first cruise. And I would say that the cost was a little bit cheaper if we're talking about the base cost. And the reason why I say base cost is because we're going to talk about hidden fees that the Carnival trip had. So base cost, I would say the Carnival trip was cheaper. The cruise was cheaper compared to when I go to a resort. However, I would say that I don't pay the same cost that typical travelers pay because of the fact that I am a travel agent. So my cost is a little bit lower than most people, but again, I would say when I do book trips for my clients, I would say a cruise is so much cheaper in comparison to the resort. So as I mentioned, hidden costs with the cruise. One thing that I would say about the cruise was the hidden cost would be drinks, and it would be gratuity, and it would be cost for your pictures. It would be so many things that add on. So by the time you leave the cruise, you have a high bill. I had a $400 bill. So one thing I would say is the cost can add up, and it ends up being as much as it would have cost if you went on a resort and you have completely paid for everything versus the cruise. Now you can pay some of those costs up front, such as, if you're a soda drinker, you can buy the Bubblies package. I think it's called Bubbles package, where you're able to get sodas, unlimited sodas or some sort. Or you could buy the drink package if you like to partake in alcoholic beverages. You can do the drink package. I think it's called the Cheers package. I chose not to do that because the cost was almost $200 for the Cheers package, because I knew that I would buy some alcoholic drinks, and I think the Cheers package also includes the soda as well, or even like specialty coffees or anything like that. So it included that. So that's why I thought that the Cheers package would be a better option for me when I was looking at adding a package to my cruise. But what made me change my mind about it is the limit on the drinks that they give you. Again, not that I'm a lush or anything, and I didn't want to, be limited to only 15 drinks for 24 hours, which I think it was the drink minimum or the drink maximum, sorry. I just chose not to do that because of the fact that I knew that I wouldn't be drinking that much. I don't really drink a lot of coffee. I don't drink a lot of sodas. I don't drink a lot of alcohol. And especially with being a solo traveler, I would not just, indulge like that. So for me, it was just not a good cost. It wasn't, to me, cost effective for me to go ahead and get that drink package. So I just paid as I went. So that's where that cost kind of rides up on you, or sneaks up on you. As far as when I go to a resort, everything is included. So if I get a soda, I'm not going to pay extra. If I buy, if I get a drink, it's nothing extra to it. It's all included. So that was one thing that I felt like there was no hidden cost there. Another hidden cost that you can incur being on a cruise versus a resort is that specialty dining. So like if you wanted sushi, there was a cost for that sushi. If you wanted they had a seafood boil place there was an additional cost for that. There was an Italian restaurant there. There was additional cost for that. There was a steakhouse, and that was additional cost besides the regular food that you get from the buffet, the little sidebar restaurants, the pizza joint, the burger joint. Those places were free, but if you wanted something elevated, you had to pay more for it. When I've gone to resorts, the resorts I've gone to, all the food is included, even the steakhouse, the sushi restaurant, the Italian restaurant, everything was included. I didn't pay extra just to go to a different dining or have a different dining experience. So that was something that I would say that would be a hidden cost if you're interested in having a more elevated dining experience. Another thing I would say that was costly was pictures. So every night and every I would say place that you ported, they had photographers there to take your picture. So as soon as you get off the boat, they have like a little stand there to try to take your picture. When you get on the boat, they have a place for you to take a picture. When you before dining, they have like different areas with different backdrops for you to take pictures. So of course you're enticed to go ahead and take some pictures so you can have memories, and then you have somebody professional taking the picture, so you don't have to have a kickstand or what these things are called, like a tripod to sit here and try to take your own pictures. So that was kind of very enticing, and then you have a great background to try to take your pictures. So very, very enticing for you to go ahead and take pictures. Of course, those pictures cost. Automatically, the fancy pictures that you take with the backdrops, those were like automatically like $22 each. And then the pictures when you're at the port or in the beach, those were like $11 to $17 each. So that adds up if you like a couple of the poses that you had and all that. So that was kind of costly, or could be costly. Another charge that I kind of didn't like was that you had to pay gratuity on the cruise. So they're required for you to pay gratuity. That could be $30 to $50 per day, depending on how long your cruise is. So that, to me, again, I am all for, paying our servers. They deserve it. They treat us, the best. So I'm all about it. So it's not that I don't agree with paying gratuity. I just don't like that it's forced on you, or that you don't get to pay it out to the person that really serviced you. So that was a thing that I didn't really care for per se. I prefer, like I said, to pay the person who serviced me, who I can see is getting the money that they deserve, instead of maybe, how it's shared. Now, I do hear that the money actually goes to the people who serve you. So like if you have dining, the servers that, served you at the dining room table, they get it. The person that cleans your rooms get it, and all that. So I hear that it goes straight to the people that did serve you. But again, it's just a little bit different putting that money in that person's hand and knowing that they actually received it. Whereas again, at a resort, you do have what they have what is called a resort fee most of the time at a resort. And that usually is like maybe $20 per day. That just happens regardless. Even when you go to like Las Vegas, they have like a resort fee that you pay on a daily basis, which is usually, like $20 to $10 or sometimes $30 per day. That is not including any gratuity that you pay to any service people that serviced you while you were there, or provided any services to you. So that is a little bit different versus a resort. So I would say that was, that can be costly depending on, what option you decide to do. So enough about hidden costs and all that. Let's talk about the service. So the service, I would say that I received at a resort compared to this cruise, I would say are comparable. One thing I would say that the cruise won up any service I've ever received at a resort is the energy. The energy that the people have was just phenomenal. I just couldn't believe how people just had these smiles on their face and just seemed just so excited to be there to serve you. One thing that they kept saying on the cruise was that we're happy that you're here. I think it's also because, the cruise industry was out of business for a whole year, during the whole pandemic. So it's like these people are happy to get back to work. So it was very apparent in their behavior. So as I mentioned before about the specialty dining, let's talk about the food. So the food compared to what I've received at a resort versus this cruise. So the food, I would say, was not bad. One thing I would say is that it was regular. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't nothing to write about. It was nothing to brag about. It was regular. They had many options, especially on the buffet. They had many options. The dinner was pretty good. The food was tasty. It was okay. It wasn't, again, nothing to brag about. At a resort, because of the fact they have so many dining options that are free or included, I would say the food was is better, period, right? The food is much better because of the fact that, again, you have specialty dining that is elevated, so it tastes better, it looks better, it's just better. The food is just plain and simple, and if you want something elevated, that's how they entice you to try to do the specialty dining. So that's what I would say is a little bit different in regards to the cruise and resort. So the food was okay. Let's talk about the activities on the cruise ship and at a resort. So activities, I think that they're equal in that. I think they rank equal on that. On a resort, you're able to, they have volleyball tournaments, they have yoga, they have everything. I mean, they had a fire show when I was in the DR. They had a movie night at the pool. So I would say it's comparable. It's same thing for the cruise. They had the movies above the Lido deck. They have pools at both places. They have tournaments. They had like a basketball tournament. It's about the same. They have shows where on the cruise they had like Deal or No Deal there. It was fun. It was exciting. They have, I will say it's comparable. I wouldn't say that there was like one better than the other. They're about the same for me. So activities, about the same. As for, let's talk about the excursions that are offered. When you go to a resort, you can book your excursion with the hotel when you get there, or you could book an excursion prior to you getting there. Same for a cruise. You don't have to book your excursion through the cruise. You can book it through a third party vendor or whatever. So you have options to book your excursions different ways. One thing that I would say that was different was that the excursions, I would say, is a little bit cheaper on a resort versus on a cruise. For example, when I was in Mexico earlier this year, I did a excursion to the cenotes, and that include the ATV bike riding and zip lining, and I paid only $70 for that. Whereas an excursion to do the same thing would be like $100+ to do that on a cruise. I'm not sure why it's just, why the price is so high, but they're not, as far as prices, I would say it's a little bit cheaper at a resort versus on a cruise. One thing about the excursions that I noticed for this particular cruise, I don't want to say that all excursions are the same, but the excursions that they offered on this particular cruise, not everything was available on the excursion. So for example, if you were doing like a tour on that cruise, They did not actually enter some of those buildings because of those COVID restrictions that they had in the Bahamas. They had lots of COVID restrictions in the Bahamas, like you had to show your vaccine card before going into some of the establishments, things of that nature. So that particular island, I would say, has stricter COVID rules, and so some of the excursions weren't as fulfilling as they normally would have been. So that was another reason why that prompted me not to go ahead and pay for an excursion, which I typically do whenever I go on a trip. So that was that deterred me from purchasing an excursion. All right, so let's move on to safety, COVID safety, since we mentioned COVID before. So COVID safeties, how did I feel? Did I feel safe in comparison to a resort, in comparison to a cruise? So safety, I would say, is about equal for me. I would say the cruise is topped just a little bit, and the reason why I say that is because of the fact that the cruise, you're required to be vaccinated about, at the time, I believe it was like 90% of the cruise, 90% of the people that entered on the cruise had to be vaccinated. So that was something that I felt, was a little bit safer, compared to when you go to a resort. Most of them ask you just to get tested before you get there, and you get tested coming back to the United States. On a cruise, though, although you're visiting another country, because the cruise is stationed out of the U.S., you're not required to get tested coming back home. I got tested because, of course, I have family members that I just did not feel safe going by them or being around them without being tested first, especially my job. I just like to be safe, and I don't want to be carrying anything back to anybody just because I decided to venture out and be in an environment that could be a high risk for catching COVID. So for me, that was just not an option not to get tested when I came back. But again, it's not required when you come back on a cruise, where it's required to get tested and to be vaccinated to go on a cruise. Whereas again, a resort, you're not required to do that. You can, some resorts are not even requiring that you get tested before going there, but airlines, I think, are requiring it. So it's just, hit or miss. So at the end of the day, I think they're both kind of pretty safe, because you basically know that before you arrived here that you were negative from COVID. But again, COVID is everywhere. You just never know how you're going to get it. So regardless, you got to be safe, wash your hands, or just be safe in general. Wear your mask. One thing, again, is enforced at both locations to wear your mask. So, do what you're supposed to do. Stay safe. Lastly, let's talk about Wi-Fi. So I typically like to take my laptop with me, or at least a tablet with me when I go on vacation. On this vacation, this was very different for me to be away from the world, detached from the world, because you got to pay for Wi-Fi. Now, I ended up paying for the social media package for the Wi-Fi. I didn't pay for like just regular Wi-Fi, because I think it is healthy to kind of detach yourself from the real world. So I would have been probably checking emails. I probably would have been doing things that I really should not be doing when you're on vacation. So that's one thing I would say was an advantage of not buying the full internet package, and me just purchasing the social media package. But when I go to a resort, I don't pay for internet. I have Wi-Fi. So I could use my laptop, I can use my tablet and enjoy, reading a book and not having to download it on my laptop, a tablet. Or if I want to check my emails, if I do want to, log in and do a little bit of work, I can do that because I have free Wi-Fi. So that's the only thing that I would say that it was not cool, that you have to pay for internet service on this cruise. So, no bueno, not a plus for me. So you really have to detach yourself from the world if you chose not to get the Wi-Fi package. One thing I would say though, I liked about the Carnival cruise is they had an app called the Hub app. And so if you're there with family, you could pay, I think it's $5 per day from what I recall, that you can connect with your family that way. So you can text each other through the app. So you can keep in, like if you're like, oh, I'm at the casino and they're on the Lido deck, you can text that way. Because again, if you don't want to pay for that internet package, that is a substitution for that. And then also the app works on the Carnival Wi-Fi. You don't have to buy the Wi-Fi package to use the app. Here, it organizes your day in a sense. Like if you're looking to go to a certain activity or you want to know what's going on the boat, it has everything that is happening on the boat. I'll put a snippet of the screenshot of what it looks like. You can heart the things that you're interested in going to, and it will remind you that a certain activity is about to start on the app. So that was pretty cool. I like that in comparison to a resort. Typically, you either have to see it on the screen of the TV or they give you like a newsletter every day to tell you what they're going to do, that, you know, what they're going to do for the day. So that's the only thing I would say that was different and actually a plus on Carnival side, creating that Hub app. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to compare. Other than that, I would say the overall trip was great. Am I going to cruise again? I don't know. It wasn't a horrible trip, but I think I'm more of a resort style traveler because I like kind of moving at my own pace. And like I was saying about that app, it's like, okay, I want to see this activity, so I got to make sure that I time myself correctly to do this and do that. Whereas I feel like I'm more leisure on a resort, and I don't feel like I'm, you know, if I so happen to get there, I'll get there. And maybe it was just a mindset that I needed to change. So that was just a little bit different for me. And again, with me being an introvert, I think a resort style trip is a little bit better for me because I can kind of be in my own corner and not feel like, oh, I'm being excluded from the fun that everybody else is having. Whereas on this trip, that's kind of how I felt like, you know, families were together, laughing, king, having jokes, you know, just all of that. And that is just, it takes me a while to warm up to people. So I didn't warm up to anybody till towards the end of my trip and really have fun with, you know, other people other than myself. So that's the only thing that I would say that was very different. But tell me in the comments, are you a cruiser or are you a resort style traveler? Let me know, what do you prefer? And why do you prefer? Because it would be, you know, it would probably help me decide if I want to go back on another solo trip on a cruise. But I know definitely I would go on another cruise if I was going with family, friends, or things of that nature. I don't think I would do it again as a solo traveler, but I'm not going to ever say never because I do love to travel. So if I see a good deal, I'm on that boat. Oh, and another thing I would say that why I prefer resort style travel versus this cruise is that the fact that cruises have set time that they sail out and come back. Whereas if I decide to go on a resort, I can go for a weekend, I can go for 2 weeks, I can go for 3 weeks, and it's at my time. So if I can't take my PTO at a certain time of the year, at least I know I can always still go to this resort any time of the year, versus on this cruise, you have a set time that cruise sails and you have to arrange your PTO around that sailing date versus the other way around. So I feel like your travel should mirror your lifestyle, not you mirror the lifestyle of your travel. So that's the only thing I would say that I wasn't a fan of in regards to the timing of the trip. But other than that, it was all good, all great. I love that you can visit multiple islands or multiple countries on a cruise versus when you go to a resort, because you're kind of stuck on that country. So you get to see multiple countries, and I think it gives you a preview of places that you will want to visit at resort style later, if you had so much fun at that place. So that is a plus of a cruise. But overall, I just love to travel, so I will be on the next plane anywhere if I get a chance to. So thank you so much for watching this video and this recap of my trip. If you're interested in booking travel, I am a travel agent, so I do love booking travel for clients. But of course, serious inquiries only. But other than that, have a good one. Thank you. Bye.